The Philadelphia Phillies are going to miss the playoffs. Yeah, I said it. A team that entered the season looking to compete for a World Series is going to be at home watching October baseball. And as a Phillies fan myself, I would be thinking there's no way. And I'm sure plenty of Phillies fans are going to watch this video and say this is a complete overreaction. This team has too much talent, too much experience, and too many stars. That's exactly what makes what we're watching right now so concerning. Because when you actually look at how the Phillies have been playing, the problems aren't isolated anymore. They're everywhere. The offense is completely inconsistent. The bullpen has been unreliable. The key players haven't performed the way Philadelphia expected. And now Alec Boehm has even found himself coming off the bench. So today, I want to explain why the Phillies are in serious danger of missing the playoffs entirely and why this season could be one of the biggest disappointments in all of baseball. The Phillies are supposed to be contenders. Think about the expectations surrounding this team. This isn't some young, rebuilding roster that would have been happy to play meaningful baseball late in the season. The Phillies are built to win right now. Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber. You have experienced starting pitchers all down the rotation minus your fifth starter. This is an organization that has already experienced deep postseason runs. They went all the way to the World Series in 2022. They were one win away from going back in 2023. And in 2024, they won the NL East, got the bye in the playoffs with a legit championship hope. The standard in Philadelphia is not hopefully we can sneak into the wild card spot. It's kind of World Series or bust, and anything short is disappointing. Missing playoffs entirely would be an absolute disaster of a season, but right now, it's become a very real possibility looking at the wildcard race. As of right this second, they're in the second wildcard spot, but the Diamondbacks are a half game back, and the Padres just 1.5 games back, currently recording this before they play on Sunday evening. So it's a very real possibility that the Phillies are just one bad stretch of baseball away from being out of the race entirely and looking in from the outside. The offense has to be better, and that's the most frustrating part. Take this sequence, for example. We're in the fifth inning. It's 3-2 Toronto, and you have a strikeout of Bryce Harper after multiple people are getting on base. Look at the names in this lineup. There's absolutely no reason the Phillies should consistently struggle to score runs, but baseball isn't played on paper. You can have all the star power in the world, and if those stars aren't producing at the same time, it doesn't matter. Look at the Mets. Look at the Yankees. These are teams who are struggling to not only win their own division, but the Mets are one of the worst teams in baseball with one of the highest payrolls, and they're not even that injured this year. That's become one of the biggest problems with Philadelphia. They'll have games where the offense looks completely unstoppable. They'll put up 7, 8 runs and remind everybody why we're so high on them. Then the next game, suddenly, nothing. The approach changes. The big hits disappear. Guys start chasing. Runners are stranded. And they look like a completely different baseball team. That's the kind of inconsistency that's dangerous when you're fighting for a playoff spot, and the type of inconsistency we've seen when they lose to teams like the Diamondbacks or the Mets in the 2024 playoffs, or hell, in the World Series getting no hit by the Astros after one of the biggest performances you put on. So what's going on with Alec Boehm? This is a guy who's an important part of the Phillies lineup for years, a cornerstone in the middle of the order to protect Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, and now Luis Ariz. And now I'm sitting here talking about how he was benched and Kyle Schwarber's playing first base. And yes, I know that Bryce Harper is supposed to have his time easing into right field, but let's be honest, the offense is probably better without him in it. And this tells you something. When you're this deep into a season and you're still trying to figure out which players you can trust on a nightly basis, that's an issue. When a team that's supposed to contend starts changing things this late in the year, it usually means they're searching for answers. They're trying to find something, anything to get them going. And maybe changing the lineup is good. Maybe it's sitting someone down. Maybe it's giving someone else an opportunity to play. But eventually, you run out of buttons to push. And at some point, the players you built this roster around simply have to perform. Now, let's not forget about the face of the franchise, Bryce Harper. This is a guy Philadelphia expects to come through with everything on the line. But there's only so much one player can do. You can't build an entire offensive identity around waiting for Bryce Harper's spot in the lineup to come around to save you. It's not sustainable. If Philadelphia is going to make the playoffs, Turner has to produce. Schwarber has to hit homers, which he's back to as of today, I can confirm. But Boehm has to produce when he's in the lineup hitting behind him too. Now we have JT Realmuto hitting behind Ariz and Bryce Harper, which is helping a little bit, at least today. The bottom half of the order also has to contribute in big moments. Because here's what happens in a playoff race. You start facing desperate teams every single night. Pitching gets managed more aggressively. Bullpens get used differently. Every mistake becomes more important. And if your offense is basically hoping for one or two guys to carry you, you're eventually going to get exposed. I'll tell you one part of this team who scares the absolute crap out of me, and that's the bullpen. The offense isn't even the biggest concern. It's the bullpen. Because nothing destroys a team's momentum faster than fighting for 8 innings and then finally getting a lead and watching it disappear in the 9th or the 8th or the 7th. Now, Duran has been good. You can get Duran in there with a lead. I think he's only blown 2 saves all season. But the rest of them? Well, that's it. In a playoff race, those losses are devastating. A blown lead in April, and you've got 5 more months to recover. But a blown lead in August, in the middle of a playoff race, that legitimately could be the difference between you making and missing the playoffs. And that's why bullpen reliability matters so much. You need guys who can get outs when everyone in the stadium knows exactly what's coming. You need relievers who can enter with runners on base and escape. You need somebody who can take the baseball in the 8th, 9th inning and everyone feel like this game is over. And if the Phillies don't have that, then every close game becomes a coin flip, and you cannot survive a playoff race by consistently flipping coins. And the National League is far too good, and it will not wait for them. Nobody cares that Philadelphia is supposed to be good. The rest of the National League isn't going to wait for the Phillies to figure it out. You've got teams fighting for division titles, for wild card spots, and you've got clubs hot exactly at the right time. And every Phillies loss opens the door a little wider for these NL West teams to come sneaking in and take over. What makes the wild card so brutal is that you're not fighting against your own division anymore. We're trying to beat the Diamondbacks and the Padres, who are also trying to chase the Dodgers. So they got bigger fish to fry, and we need to make sure that we keep our games up, even though we're kind of caught in this middle ground where we're certainly not going to catch the Braves, but we're certainly not going to get caught by the Nationals or the Marlins. When you win games, there's a chance that somebody else also won their game. So you can suddenly drop multiple spots when you go through a losing streak, like even 3 or 4 losses in a row can be the death of your wild card hopes. You've got plenty of time until you don't. And I gotta say, they're running out of time. And that's really what this entire season comes down to, time. We're past the point where you can shrug off a bad week, and we're past the point where you can say it's a long season. This long season is almost over, and this is when contenders separate themselves from everybody else. And Philadelphia has to decide what kind of team this team actually is. Is it a team that has enough talent to get hot and make an October run? Or is this a team whose reputation is better than their actual performance? Because those two things are very different. And right now, I'm starting to believe they're the second one. My prediction as of this moment is the Phillies can absolutely make the playoffs. There's way too much talent here, and it's not to say they have no chance, or it's not to say it's over. They could get hot tomorrow and make this entire video look completely ridiculous, and everybody's in my comments saying, what the hell are you talking about? They're up in the wild card by 4 games, and 1 week it can literally make all of the difference, because that's baseball. But my prediction is these inconsistencies are going to finally catch up to them. The bullpen is gassed, the offense is struggling, and the Diamondbacks and Padres both couldn't be hotter. I think the NL West is too strong. They're going to have 3 teams going into this playoff season, and the Phillies aren't going to be one of them. Another National League team gets hot. Philadelphia just falls short in September. I don't know what else to say. I think the 2026 Philadelphia Phillies miss the playoffs. And if that happens, this offseason is going to be very interesting because you don't have anybody you can give up. You have full no trade clauses on JT, Aaron Nola, Bryce Harper, Trey Turner. Kyle Schwarber's on a big deal. You really don't have any young talent to replace any of these old geezers who are kind of giving it up at this point anyway. Andrew Painter looks good, but he's certainly not a 1 or a 2. A team spending this much money with this many stars and this many expectations can't just run everything back and pretend nothing happened. Everybody accused them of doing that this year until the trade deadline. They got Luis Ariz and Brooks Raley, and those 2 guys seem to be performing certainly well so far. Now, as a Phillies fan and a full-blown believer myself, I think we absolutely will make the playoffs. And honestly, I think the Diamondbacks aren't going to stay this hot. The Padres aren't going to stay this hot either. And eventually, I think we're going to be the second wild card spot and end up playing the Cubs in the first round. That's my Phillies fan prediction. But this channel's not a Phillies channel. If I'm keeping it real, I want to hear from y'all. Am I completely overreacting, or am I crazy for thinking the Phillies aren't going to make the playoffs? Because at this point in the wild card race, you can't even dream of an opportunity to go catch the Braves. Wild card or bust right now. And maybe that's good for them. They won't get the bye. They'll have to play a 3-game series, and they can kind of stay hot. And trust me, once they make the playoffs, they're going to run out this 3-game series in a wild card race with Sanchez, Wheeler, Luzardo. And I got to tell anybody who we're facing, good luck. Because I don't think there's another team in all of the National League, excluding the Dodgers, who can match those top 3 pitchers. It's just a matter of if the offense can perform. Are you starting to get the same feeling that the team isn't right? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy baseball commentary like this, subscribe to the channel because we've got plenty of more as this playoff race gets crazier and crazier. But for now, my heart is telling me that the Philadelphia Phillies are going to miss playoffs. You know what they say? Set the bar low so you can be excited when it happens. I'll see you guys in the next one.